Hello, class. Today we are going to talk about the equations of circles. So what this is the equation, just like we have the equation of a line, y equals mx plus b, the equation of a parabola, which would be ax squared plus bx plus c equals y. This is the equation of a circle. So if we have a circle on the coordinate plane, what is the equation that gives us that circle? Well, if we think about it, let's think about the definition of a circle. The definition of a circle is it is the set of points that are the same distance from the center. So we have this radius, this distance from the center, and this goes all the way around. All of them are that distance. So what we want is an equation that says, hey, we want everything that is that distance from the center. Well, distance is really nothing more than Pythagorean theorem. The distance formula is, all right? A squared plus b squared equals c squared, where c is your distance. And a and b, those are just the x and y coordinates, or the distance that you've traveled, kind of like slope, all right? So if we just use x and y, that gives us a right triangle, and we just plug this into Pythagorean theorem, so it turns into that. X squared plus y squared equals r squared. And that's all it is. It's very, very simple. Now, there is, of course, a problem of what happens if your circle is not centered at the origin. This is great if your circle is centered at the origin, but if it's not, then we have to change things just a little bit. So what if, for example, I move my circle out here? All right? Well, now my center is not the origin. Now my center is some other point, HK, whatever. Right? And this changes the formula. Hopefully you remember from doing transformations of graphs, when you do this translation, all you're going to do is add that to the x and the y's. Right? And your equation becomes this. Now, I do want to point out, notice here, it's not actually going to be added. It's going to be subtracted. We're going to take whatever the sign is here for h and k, and we are going to switch the sign. So it becomes x minus h, in parentheses, squared, plus y minus k, in parentheses, squared, equals the radius squared. All right? And so, still, it's just distance formula. It's the same formula. We just need to slide it over, slide it up. If I had my circle centered down here, my h right here would still be negative, but now since my y value is negative, this would change signs and become positive. All right? This symbol here, this sign, is going to be the opposite of whatever it actually is, because remember, anything in parentheses is backwards. If it looks like a positive, it's really a negative. All right? Okay, so let's take a look at a couple of examples. We want to determine the equation of the circle that's graphed below. So what we need the center and we need the radius. All right. Well, looking at this, it seems we go from -8 right here to +4 right there. So that would be a difference of 12. And so our radius goes halfway, would be 6. And here's our center right there at -2, +3. And let's see, so the equation, if you remember, is x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. So all we need is h and a k and the radius. So the h is the x value of the center. So we have x. And notice this is -2, and we need to switch the sign. What it wants is minus -2 minus a negative means it's going to be a +2 squared plus y minus k, which is the y value of the center, which is right there at 3. So that's a +3. We're going to put this at -3. So -3 squared equals r squared. Well, r is 6. So what we want is 6 squared, which is 36. And this is the equation of this circle. All right? not too bad. Let's do another one. Okay, so here we go. Let's take a look at this, and that's weird, just grabbing random things, and looks like the radius is the same, 6. The center is different, though. The center is at -2, -3. So again, our standard formula is x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. All right, so we just need to plug in h, k, and r. So we have x minus h. H is the x value of the center, which is -2. So minus a negative makes it a +2 because it's going to change signs. Everything in parentheses is backwards. Squared plus y minus k, which is the y value of the center, which is -3. So minus a negative, so it becomes +3 squared equals r squared, which again is going to be 6 squared, so 36. And there's that. So again, not too bad. Let's take a look at a couple that are a little bit more complicated. So here we want the equation of the circle, and if you'll notice, it gave us the center, but we don't have the exact radius, do we? Because if you'll notice right here, it's not actually going through at that lattice point, is it? It's off to the side. So the radius is something slightly more than 3. It's not exactly 3. So what are we going to do? All right, well, still, I want to go ahead and put this in. So x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. Well, we can do some of it. We know h and k because it gives us a center. So let's go ahead and put that in. X minus h. H is the x value, so that would be -6. So minus a negative, so it's going to be +6 squared plus y minus k. So k is the y value, which is -5. So that's going to minus a negative is +5 squared equals, and we need to figure out what r squared is. Well, r is the radius, which we said a minute ago is just distance. All right, that's all we're going to use. Distance formula from here to there. Well, again, we can just set this up as Pythagorean theorem. This is unit of 1. This has units. Has 3 units, and so we can just put this into a squared plus b squared equals r squared. So a is 1, so I have 1 squared, plus b, which is 3 squared, equals r squared, equals, draw the line, there we go. So 1 is 1, 3 squared is 9, so 1 plus 9 is 10. So 10 is equal to r squared. So the radius, we can take the square root of that, so the square root of 10 is equal to the radius. But the thing is, yeah, we want r squared, so I really don't need to square root it. I just want this line right there. R squared is 10. 10. And there it is. That's my equation. All right. So here, let's get another one of these. And in fact, how about you pause the video, see if you can work this one out on your own, and then come back and check your work. All right. So let's see. Let's go ahead and write my equation down. Oops. X minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. So x minus h, h is the x value of the center, which is 3, so minus 3 squared, plus y minus k, k is the y value, which is -6. So minus negative makes this a +6 squared equals, and now I have to figure out what r squared is. So again, I'm going to come over here. I'm going to set up my right triangle for Pythagorean theorem. This is 1 unit by 3 units, again, which is weird, but whatever. So I have 1 squared plus 3 squared equals r squared. And so that would be 1 plus 9, which is, again, 10 is r squared. And the radius is square root of 10, but I don't care. I just want r squared, which is 10. And there it is. So hopefully that's what you got. All right, now let's look at one more example, and this one is a bit more complicated. So here it wants us to determine the center and the radius of the circle, But notice this does not look like the way we want it to look, does it? This does not look like that equation of x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. That is not what this looks like. We're going to have to do some rearranging. And what we're going to use is we're going to use a process called completing the square, which hopefully you remember from Algebra 1. If not, we'll go over it again. This will be a bit more complicated than what was done in Algebra 1 because we're going to have to do this twice, once for the x's, once for the y's. So this is going to be a little bit complicated. So what we're going to do first in completing the square is we want to get this constant on the other side of the equation. So I'm going to add 90 to both sides of the equation. Right. So that gives me x squared, and I'm going to rearrange this. I'm going to put my x's together, plus 2x plus y squared minus 6y equals 90. And you notice I left a gap here. I did that on purpose. All right. I left a gap right here and a gap right there. I did that on purpose. We're going to put some other things there. So what we're going to do in completing this square, we want to be able to take this x squared plus 2x, and we want to be able to write it like this. All right. So we want to write this like that. And we're going to do the same thing with the y's. All right. So we're going to start with x. Now this number right there that goes next, this right here, the way we do that, first we take whatever symbol this is, and it drops down right there. So this is a plus, so that's a plus. Then we take whatever number that is, and it goes right here. We divide it by 2. So half of 2 is 1. And then what we're going to do is a little weird, but that's okay. We're going to take this 1, and we're going to square it and put it right here. So plus 1 squared, all right, which in this case is just 1. All right, now, I just added 1 to the left side of the equation, which means I have to add it to the right side of the equation. So I'm going to plus 1 right there. All right. Now, we're going to do the same thing for the y's. All right. So first, I'm going to have y right there, y. Then we're going to take this symbol, and it drops down right there, so minus. And then we're going to take the 6, we half it, and we put it right there. So half of 6 is 3. Then we're going to do that squaring thing. So we're going to take the 3, we're going to square it and put it right here. So 3 squared is 9. 9. Right, actually, I'm going to write it as 3 squared. And then over here, since I added 9 to the left side of the equation, I have to add 9 to the right side of the equation. So plus 9. All right. And so let's drop this down. So we have over on this side, we have 90 plus 1 is 91 plus 9 is 100. And now I have my equation. All right. Right there. There's my equation. So I can get my h and my k and my r. So h is right there. H. Now, the thing is, remember, this is minus h, so we're going to have to switch the sign. So that's minus h. So h is going to be negative 1. Here's k right there. Right? And again, it's minus k, so this is a negative 3, so we want the opposite of that. And so we want positive 3. So that's my center is at negative 1, positive 3. And r, well, this 100 is r squared. So r, I want the square root of 100, and so r is equal to 10. All right. And there you go. That is a bit more complicated. All right. So again, the way this works, first, you move your constant right here. You move that constant to the other side. All right. Right there. Then what you're going to do is you're going to rearrange this, put your x's together, put your y's together. Okay, so whatever symbol you have here goes down, and then you half this, put it there, and then you square it, and you add that to both sides of the equation. So this 1 squared gets added to both sides of the equation. Then you do the same thing for your y's. Whatever symbol you have here, plus or minus, drops down. You take your number right there, your coefficient, half it, bring it down there into the square, and then you square it up here and add that to both sides. All right. Then you have your equations. You have your h, you have your k. Don't forget to change the sign on those. If they're positive, make them negative. And then r, this is r squared, so you have to square root it to get your radius. All right? Okay. And remember, here's your basic equation. X minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals the radius squared, where h and k are the center of your circle. And don't forget, you have to switch the sign. So this is minus h, so h is positive. If we're over here, h is negative, you'd have plus h, k is negative, it would be plus k. Up here, again, h is negative, so plus h. K would now be positive, and so it would say minus k. So always remember to change the sign on your h and your k. All right? Hopefully you found that useful, and I will see you in the next video.